Welcome to the Calcio FC podcast. I'm David Freedy, your host. Joining me as usual in the studio, Dan Cancian and Emma Gates, our Destination Calcio senior writers. This week, we've got a special guest for you, Adam Summerton, the voice of Calcio in the United Kingdom, TNT Sports Serie A extraordinaire commentator. We're going to discuss his favourite Italian cities, his favourite stadiums, and also some classic players from the old Football Italia days. But first up, we're going to talk some Serie A. We're going to get straight into it with Juventus and Inter. Adam, thanks for joining.
Pleasure.
And we know you're a busy man, so we're going to get straight into it. Serie A race. We know that you've been commentating a lot for TNT. You did Napoli Udinese on the weekend, did the Milan derby. We were there for that as well. What can you see coming up this weekend? We've got Juventus Inter. How is that going to affect the title race? Juve may be out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge game, isn't it? I wouldn't include Juve in the title race, but I'd certainly include them in the race for the top four. So for them, it's hugely significant in that respect, because in Serie A this season, it's just so entertaining because there's so many different plot lines, isn't there? I mean, even the relegation battle is fascinating as well, but we've got this race for the title that clearly that game is significant for. And look, Juve can't afford to be outside of the Champions League, can they either? So for them, it's vitally important. I'm just so excited and intrigued by the race that's developed between Inter and Napoli. And I wouldn't completely rule out Atalanta either, who've just picked up again, having had that sort of stumble, if you like. So yeah, it is really exciting. The Derby d'Italia, whatever's on it, really is one of my most favourite fixtures in European football. I always look forward to it, and whenever I get the email asking me to do it, I'm always very, very happy indeed. So yeah, I'm very excited about doing it, and I love doing those games with Don as well. So it's Don and I on Sunday doing that, so it'll be good fun.
It's a fabulous duo. Dan and Emmett also listening in to some of the broadcasts. What do you guys think of the race so far? Fiorentina losing on Monday. Inter back in it. Only 1 point between Inter and Napoli at the moment. Juventus, massive match coming up.
Yeah, I mean, Juventus, as we all know, haven't had the best of seasons. They're drawn too many games. But I think when it comes to the Derby d'Italia against Inter, they always raise their level just due to the sheer rivalry between the two teams. It's almost like a one-off game in itself. I mean, we've seen really bad Juventus sides over the years even beat Jose Mourinho's Inter sides because just in a one-off game they can raise their level. So obviously we all know this Inter side are better than Juventus, but when it comes to a one-off game, it wouldn't surprise me if Juventus turned it up and either probably draw.
Well, they'd be doing Napoli a favour, wouldn't they, Adam? I mean, there's only 1 point between Napoli and Inter now. What are you thinking of Antonio Conte at the moment and his new Napoli? We saw what they did under Spalletti a couple of years back, and it just almost seems as though they've skipped a beat. That one anomaly last season, they got that out of the road, they're back, and it's a very new look Napoli side.
Well, it's very impressive what he's doing and what they're doing collectively, because there's still a lot of players from the team that won the Scudetto that are still there. And if they win it again this time, they'll have won it in a completely different way, a completely different style of play, which I think is a compliment to the players who were still there from the first Scudetto. I think that the speed with which Conte has turned things around has been impressive. Clearly, he's helped out massively by the fact that he hasn't got any European football to contend with, and we all know the last time that he had that in Italy with Juve, he won the league in his first season. So obviously that's played a part too, particularly when you're really drilling players on the training ground, looking to get in your patterns of play, your system. I've been really interested in how he changed it from a back three. When it's a big compliment really to McTominay, I thought, the way that he changed his system. And I think that I've been so impressed with Anguissa this season, particularly in recent months. I feel that he's become, well, he was important anyway, but I feel he's gone to another level in terms of his importance under Conte and developing his game now and scoring goals, a threat in the final third. So I think they've done really well. I felt that he was trying too hard almost to say that he wasn't disappointed with the transfer window. I wondered whether that was quite true, because I felt like they maybe needed to really back him in terms of a replacement for Kvicha on that left-hand side. I'm not quite so sure that Okafor is going to be right for that, but we'll see. I mean, Okafor has said, look, I'm not here to make up the numbers. He's there to make a difference. So
what are you thinking of Giacomo Raspadori?
Well, again, with Raspadori, that's interesting as well, because Conte has said that he almost, I can't remember the exact quote, but he was basically saying that he knows that Raspadori should be playing more, that he deserves more minutes. However, it's very difficult to get him into the team. And he said that one of the things he's been doing with him to try and find a way into the team has been coaching him in terms of playing in central midfield in training, which I found very interesting. We haven't seen any evidence really of that on the pitch as of yet. But you never know. I mean, Raspadori is somebody who's popped up with important moments and big goals during his Napoli career, despite the fact that he's not really had that much game time. So you never quite know who'll end up playing pivotal roles in big moments in this title race. I mean, you only have to look at Arnautovic against Fiorentina the other day to see that these title races can be so unpredictable, and that's one of the things that makes them so great, such great fun to watch.
They are. They're immense entertainment, and Fiorentina put a spanner in the works by beating Inter last week, and they lost on Monday, but still, Dan, I'll throw it to you. Fiorentina under Palladino, the credentials there for the new Fiorentina coach, they had a similar trajectory to Napoli where they had a very good season, had a dip last year, and now they're back under their new coach. Moise Kean, players like that making a massive impact?
Yes, I mean, I don't think anyone expected him to be as good as he's been this season. I guess the proof will be in the pudding. Where is he going to go next? Because there have been rumours about him moving on from Fiorentina. But I think that we mentioned last week that, players like him will benefit from actually staying in Fiorentina in a settled environment and go from there and grow from go from strength to strength. I think that is the perfect environment for him, Fiorentina, because Palladino is a molded manager, plays to his strengths. They've got a really good team around him. Not good enough to win the league, of course, but definitely good enough to be making a case of top four. Atalanta have done it, and there's no reason why Fiorentina can't do it themselves.
Adam, do you think Fiorentina-Atalanta, now that Dan's mentioned the Bergamaschi there, they've got a similar kind of theme behind them? Gasperini, Palladino, obviously two different elements of their coaching, but Fiorentina, are they aspiring to be like an Atalanta?
Fiorentina fascinate me because I looked at their summer business, and a lot of the talk over the summer was that they're looking to cut costs, particularly when they sold Milenkovic as he was their highest earner. And they went out, and what they did was they recruited so many players who were maybe players who had a point to prove. They were on the fringes of their previous clubs. And I felt that it was a Fiorentina side when I saw them at the start of the season who really surprised me because there was such a hunger about them, which comes probably from what I've just said about players who were on the edges of things at their previous clubs and came there hungry with a point to prove. And it was a blend that really seemed to be working. Then they had that real dip, didn't they? And now they seem to be back on the way up. But I really like Fiorentina. And if I look at they've gone again, haven't they, in January? Because they clearly see, they've looked at it in January. And I think they've talked at it at board level and probably with Palladino as well and gone, look, we have got a real chance of Champions League football here. And if they could do that, that's transformational as to back up what you seem to be saying there. Atalanta have proved if you can get into the Champions League and then you can find a way to build a squad that's capable of going again and continually qualifying for Europe, the financial rewards are so significant that yes, you can do things like totally renovate your stadium like Atalanta have ended up doing. You can be in a position where suddenly you're part of the race for the Scudetto when you've always just been a provincial club, really, in Atalanta's case, one with a great youth system, but never one that you'd ever think would be challenging for the title. So I think that Fiorentina have looked at it in January and thought, we've got a chance here. And if they could get in the Champions League, who knows what, what that could mean for them going forward.
Yeah, they're only 5 points behind Atalanta. You can see there, we've got our limited edition Atalanta Campioni d'Europa
Very nice
shirt above the boys' head. Also got, of course, Fiorentina represented here, the old days with Batistuta and Edmundo and that era there. That's kind of where Atalanta are now, you'd think. And Fiorentina kind of traded places with them in a couple of decades of time that have gone. And that race between the leading goal scorers, I mean, Retegui with a poker on the weekend against Verona, and now we've got Moise Kean. Fascinating battle. Is it good news for Luciano Spalletti?
Very, isn't it? Yeah, he's got to be very happy with that. And then you've got somebody like Luca as well, who's talking about ambitions to be a regular for the national side and talking about going to one of the top clubs in Italy. So yeah, I mean, it's been the debating point for so long about the Italian national side is they haven't got a centre forward, and now they've got two who are firing all at once. And sometimes life and football can happen like that, can't it? I mean, it's almost like London buses with Italian centre forwards at the minute. But yeah, it is exciting for him because I think that with the national side, there's clear signs that that's starting to head in the right direction. I think it was quite right that Spalletti was given the benefit of the doubt after the summer. hadn't had enough time to truly imprint his style and how he wants to play on the team, perhaps. But I do think there are encouraging signs going forward now. And look, if you've got players who are scoring that many goals that you can call upon and maybe have to choose between one of them, I mean, that is fantastic for a national coach, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, good times for Italian supporters. I mean, I remember watching the European Championship and, head in my hands kind of stuff, very different to 2021. Adam, you put a tweet out last week, as poor as I've seen Inter for some time, I'd go as far as to say a worrying performance. Fiorentina, fantastic. We saw that 2 different Inters in the space of 5 days. Now, with Simone Inzaghi at the helm, no one could ever really say that the boat's rocked at Inter. Where do you see the title race going now that they've kind of back on track with that win? What do you think?
It's probably, we'll probably have to wait until after Sunday, won't we? And see how we feel then, because it's just, it's so tight and it's so competitive that so much can change with just one weekend, can't it? And that's the problem. The momentum shifts I think we're going to see in this title race. I think we're only just at the beginning of it, really, which for a neutral like me is just fantastic to see how it will all unfold. Yeah, I did feel that was a worrying performance against Fiorentina. They were very flat. They looked lacking in energy. I mean, I'm not saying anything that probably hasn't been said before about this Inter side that I feel has been put together superbly, and we all know about the free transfers that have been made. They've been very clever and very savvy in the way that they've built this squad. I've said many times that I think Inzaghi is one of the probably one of the most underrated coaches in Europe. He doesn't really get talked about that much outside of Italy, really. You would never really hear him, for instance, linked with a Premier League job. I mean, I can't really remember too many occasions that's happened. But I think he's an elite coach who's done so much at Inter. But to go back to the squad, it isn't the youngest squad. In fact, it's by some distance on average age the oldest in Serie A. Whether that's playing a part, I don't know. In terms of, we've seen them, I wouldn't say inconsistent because they've still been getting a lot of good results, but that is something that I'm slightly wary of. Although I haven't said it, I think Napoli are the second oldest. I think I'm right in saying that. So that's just something that worries me a little bit, and I'm sure that they've got reinvention in mind in terms of where they'll go next in the transfer market in the summer. But I think if you're talking about what's the most complete squad in the league, if you look at the strength in depth, it's really no comparison in terms of the two squads between Napoli and Inter. If Napoli were to get several injuries, you would really worry for them, whereas Inter have got 2-3 players in most positions, and maybe that will be the difference. And Napoli don't score anywhere near as many goals as Inter as well, which I think could prove to be a factor in the end as well.
Adam, obviously there's 5 points between Napoli, Inter and Atalanta. Do you think Atalanta are out of the race, or do you think they're still in it?
No, I don't think you can rule them out at 5 points. Obviously, they're the outsiders. I would describe them as that. But a lot can change, and we'll see how far Inter go in the Champions League as well. That's going to pull on their resources, so we'll see about that. The fact that Napoli are able to rest up without European football is still significant, and obviously what Atalanta do in the Champions League will have an effect too. But I think there's a lot of quality in that Atalanta side, and I don't think they will win it. If you were to put me on the spot, I don't think they will win it, but I don't think at 5 points that you can rule them out of it, particularly when you've got the league's top scorer as well, and so many other quality players as well, like Lookman and De Ketelaere, and we could be here all day eulogising about this Atalanta team, and it illustrates how good this league is, doesn't it? That a team with all that ability is third at the moment, because they give anybody in Europe a game, as they've proved many times this season. So I think for the league, it's something to be excited and proud about, even that you've got a team that's come from where they've come from to challenge in the manner they have domestically and abroad is absolutely exceptional work by Gasperini.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of Serie A clubs are really prospering under some foreign ownership. Dan, I'll throw it to you. Did you have a question?
I did, actually. I wanted to ask Adam, Antonio Conte so far has been reluctant, shall we say, to embrace the tag of Scudetto favourites. Do you think it's just playing mind games, or do you think that he's genuinely think that he's done more than he should have done this season with Napoli? Because as you said, they've been extraordinary this season, and it's a word that Conte has gone back on it over and over again over the past few weeks.
Yeah, difficult to say. I mean, I suppose I think you'd probably have to take him at face value in that, as I've just said myself, and I think most people would say that Inter's the most complete squad in the league, certainly the most depth if you look across the different positions and how much they've got, the quality and the experience, the fact that they've been there and done it before. I know some of these Napoli players have as well, but if you add everything up, I mean, I made Inter favourites at the start of the season, and I would stick to that now. But I think that to be anywhere near pushing them even is a success in his first season for Conte. I just hope that he stays and for more than just one season. I hope that this isn't just a flash in the pan. I hope that he really builds something there and that he's backed in the transfer market in the summer, because he's a fantastic coach. I know if you look at what happened at Spurs, that maybe affected his reputation in England, but he's still an absolutely elite level coach. And the other thing I'd say about what I've really enjoyed about Conte this season is that you see so much criticism these days of top coaches, about a lack of pragmatism, about a lack of flexibility, about simply always sticking to their principles no matter what, even if the evidence in front of your eyes suggests that it's not necessarily the right thing to do or it doesn't fit the group of players that you have. What Conte has showed is, and he's not a young coach anymore, what he showed is an ability to be pragmatic, to be flexible, to fit more with the profiles of the players that he's been given. And I've really, that's for me has been one of the most impressive things about Napoli and Conte this season. I've enjoyed that aspect of seeing him be flexible.
Adam, let's move on to Mr. Adam Summerton as the topic. Your journey into commentating Serie A. Have you developed a passion for all things Italian, or is it just strictly Italian football?
Do you know, as the time has gone on, I really have grown a passion for Italy. If I were to learn a language, and if I ever find the time to do it, that's the language I would learn. I went to Florence and Pisa on my holiday with my other half in the summer. We had a great time. I took my children on holiday to Italy a couple of years before that as well. We went to Milan and Verona and Lake Como, and I love the place, love the culture, obviously love the football. So it's something that's grown with me over the years as I've become more and more invested in it, really. I've been to Italy a lot in particularly the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, I've been a lot, both in terms of with work, which is just fantastic to go to these stadiums that I've seen on TV since I was, a kid in the 90s. So yeah, it's work and pleasure, I guess.
And so if I held this up, could you translate for us a few things? You mentioned in a previous pod I've listened to that you picked up a La Gazzetta dello Sport once and you just loved having the feel. Did it bring you a little bit of inner James Richardson that time?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think any self-respecting fan of Golazzo in the 90s, whenever they go to Italy, they've got to go and get a Gazzetta. And whenever I do with work, I actually do it for a laugh, to have that photo with the paper in a cafe. But I also actually do it because it's useful for work. I love the way the Italian press write their headlines in particular, and the Gazette, how they lay the pages out as well. It's just a little different to the UK. And what I do is I'll get my phone, and where you get the photo and it translates it for you. So I'll just sit in a hotel room and translate some of the headlines from the papers. I always get people asking me if I speak Italian when I'm sat there with doing that photo with the Gazzetta at the cafe. Sadly not. Yeah, I don't read or speak Italian just yet. But it's and you know what? I also just keep those papers as a souvenir, because going and doing these games is it's important to me. It means a lot to me. It's something I'd always wanted to do. So yeah, I've got a box at home with lots of programs in it, and every time I come home, I stick the copy of Gazzetta in that box, and maybe I'll pull it out in 5 years and remember a particular game I did.
Oh, that's what we do on Calcio FC. I mean, every time we go to a stadium, we bring back something. We even went to watch Serie B. Reggiana had a water bottle with their labeling on it, and we were just looking at it like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It's all part of the culture, and that's what we really love. We love breathing it in, and it's one of those things where you grow up. You grow up in the United Kingdom as well, Emmett, and so did Dan for a period of his life. Italian born, just in case you didn't pick the accent about that. We might have a segment on that one time. But that whole Football Italia feel, growing up in Australia, I never had it, but you guys did. And Adam, I've also heard you mention before that you found, growing up, watching Football Italia, you could see the differences, the intricacies in the way that the banners were around stadiums, the way that the fans reacted with the players, the way that it was presented as a product. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really important part of it. I mean, there was a time in the 90s where Sky had taken over the coverage of the Premier League, where there was, for a lot of people, there was a bit of an impasse where, because it had always been on terrestrial TV before, there were families who just couldn't afford to start paying for a satellite TV subscription. So mine was one of those. And if you couldn't watch the Premier League on a Sunday afternoon when you got home with your muddy knees from your kids' game, you needed to find something else. And there was a whole generation of us, I think, who in part got into Italian football from that because it coincided with it being on Channel 4 on a Sunday afternoon. So eventually my mum and dad did end up getting a subscription to Sky, and you would watch the Premier League as well. But that's, for me, how it started, really. It was like opening a window to another footballing world. It was, as you say, the different colours, the crests, the way the crowd behaved, the tifos, all these different things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily see, or they were presented differently at English grounds. And it was a little bit mesmerising, particularly for a young child. And I suppose I carried that forward. And then, if I'm honest, I probably lost touch a little bit with Italian football in my later teens and early 20s. And then when I eventually started following the league again, and most importantly, covering the league for TV, I think I just really rediscovered it entirely again, and really bought into it again and really immersed myself in it, as you need to do when you're covering a league. You really need to immerse yourself in it, learn the history of it, the present of it, and from there, it's almost been like that love was completely reignited again, and has been like that now for, well, what is it? It's more than a decade, isn't it? So
Yeah.
12 years I've been covering it for TNT.
12 years you've been doing Serie A. I mean, that's a lifetime in itself. I mean, how many years have you been following as a fan? Probably since childhood, Emmett and Dan, but 12 years as a commentator, I can tell you it's a long stretch for any league. I know that you've been doing it for about 20 or so years, commentary in
Yes.
general. You started in sort of a lower league, local scenario there. Favourite players, going back to the Football Italia days though, we've got Sampdoria here, very different. They're in Serie B now. I should mention we're actually the official broadcasters of Serie B, talking to a Serie A official broadcaster here. But Atalanta weren't the team that they are now back then. They did have Caniggia, Sampdoria with Gianluca Vialli. They had Mancini, Viekovod, players like that. Are there any that stick in your mind?
Oh, we'd be here all day, wouldn't we? I mean, you're talking about the real golden era. I mean, you could argue, I mean, I know people say the Premier League is the strongest in the world now, but I don't think there will ever be another league that has such a golden era as Serie A did in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, it was just the place to be, wasn't it? It really was. And it just produced so many players. I mean, even as you're saying that, you've got images going through my mind. I'm thinking of Weah running the length of the pitch against Verona, one of the famous sort of Football Italia goals. And I'm thinking of Batistuta wheeling away with his celebrations. And yeah, there's so many different players you could talk about, even not necessarily like the attacking forward players, even the defenders that Serie A was famous for as well. People like Baresi and Maldini and all these type. I mean, there's just so many. And obviously, when I was a kid as well, you would see these players on things like Football Italia, and then you would sign them on Football Manager or whatever. And it was brilliant, fantastic.
Favourite Italian side? I know that you've got one to watch. It was Napoli. I'm not sure if that's the case again, but is there a favourite Italian side you'd love to watch? I know that you need to be neutral about a favourite club in particular.
There've been different teams over the years that I've really enjoyed. Two of my favourites to watch stylistically were both Napoli, actually. Sarri's Napoli in this final season, and the Spalletti Napoli that won the Scudetto. In terms of joy to watch, those two would be right up there. I would say Gasparini's side as well of last season. I covered the Europa League final. I adored watching those. But I admire different teams for different reasons. I always say, look, there's so many different ways to win a football match, and you might do it defensively, you might do it, in the way that Conte's now. I don't enjoy watching this Napoli side under Conte as much as I enjoyed watching the Spalletti side, but that doesn't mean that they're any lesser of a team. It's just a different way of doing it. I get asked all the time about whether I have an Italian side, because a lot of people from back in the day, my age, would support Milan, but I genuinely never followed any team. I just followed the league, really, and that's sort of stood me in good stead, because obviously people are always trying to find bias in whatever you do, and I can genuinely just sit there and say, I honestly couldn't care less who wins this game or wins this league title. I just love watching it, and I love seeing it unfold, and I feel like I can offer an opinion on any of the teams from a position of neutrality, and as I say, that stood me in good stead, really.
Adam, obviously, stadiums in Italy, they're not like they are in the UK. Do you have a particular favourite stadium that you've been to, or one that you want to go to in the future?
I've not had the chance yet to do a game at Marassi, and I would love to go there. I know that it's perhaps not in the greatest nick, and it's it could do with some work. But if you look at it on a match day, I mean, particularly when it's close to being full, maybe for a derby or something like that, it just looks absolutely amazing. And I love how it's it breaks away a little bit from what you would expect of an Italian ground. I would say it does look like what I would say is an English ground in its design. So it's quite unusual in that respect. So I would really like to go there. My favourite is San Siro. I mean, that's my favourite stadium anywhere of anywhere I've ever been. And again, I would say that it is desperate for renovation. I make no argument with people who say to me, how can you say it's the best stadium? Because I'd say, well, it's not the best stadium for the facilities. It's not the best stadium for, the fact that it is genuinely crumbling a bit, but it's absolutely iconic. And you just stand there in awe of the place. You just feel like you're in the presence of greatness when you stand in that stadium. The view, even from where we commentate, is fantastic. The noise it generates is just out of this world. And that San Siro would be my favourite. The Olimpico I really enjoyed going to as well. And then you've got a stadium like Atalanta that's been completely redeveloped, which is a totally different zone, isn't it, to San Siro, which is all about history and tradition, whereas Atalanta, it's more about what they've done in the recent past and how that's helped regenerate their stadium. So, San Siro, to answer your question in short, San Siro my favourite, Marassi the one that I need to tick off my list.
Yeah, Marassi is a superb stadium. It does have that feel, that British sort of look about it as well, and is so iconic back in the day with the Mancini era as well.
Marassi is superb if you avoid the staircase.
Yeah, don't go to the Scalinata Montaldo. After you exit the stadium, you go up this, I think it's 19 flights of stairs, according to your fitness watch. About 290 stairs, and you've got to get up the staircase to get to the bus stop, to get back to the central part of Genoa. Fabulous experience, though. It is decked out in that Genoa blue and red, though. It's not a Sampdoria staircase unless you're going down. But speaking of stadiums, San Siro, you can't complain with that. That is the place to go if you're ever going to have a first Italian football experience. Maybe we shouldn't recommend the Stadio Eugeneo in Padova for Adam to go and see. Dan went there early in the season, and it's one of those stadiums where the home fans are actually protesting. They won't go to home games because they're protesting the ownership of the club. They only go to away games, but they are coming first in Serie G. They look like they're going to come up to Serie B. Dan, do you have a question?
I do. Adam, like you, I grew up on a diet of Football Italia, and there was this sort of romance about James Richardson being in a piazza with the Gazzetta reading, and it was very different from like what I would see out of my window, where like rain and mud. So if you were to pick a city in Italy that you would love to visit, which one would it be? I know that you said you loved Florence and you loved Lake Como, but is there one that stands out in particular to you?
Oh God, that's tough. I feel like I've probably only really scratched the surface of what I'd like to do in terms of my visiting of Italy. So that's pretty tough. I went to Rome, but I got hardly any time to look around. I had about an hour, so I felt so frustrated because I'd got driven from the airport and then driven, and all the time I'm saying, I'd love to go there, I'd love to go there, I'd love to see that, and I just had no time at all. So all I saw was the Colosseum. So I definitely need to do a proper tour of Rome, probably go on holiday. I loved Bergamo, only a fairly small place, but...
Did you go up the top there, up to the old town as well, or did you stay around?
Went where you had the lovely view, went up there. There was a piazza that I was in as well that I think was quite well known, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But Bergamo was lovely. As I say, I've been to Milan a few times now.
Well, for those of you who haven't seen it at home, we should mention that we've done a Bergamo pod, and we do the Everything You Need to Know series, and we've done Bergamo, we've done Milan recently, so we've got plenty of other towns there. We've got Florence coming up as well. So
Florence is beautiful.
We'll have to get you out on a Destination Culture weekender. We do football weekenders, Adam, so don't worry about the commentating of the games. Just come with us and you're fine. We'll show you a couple
Go
of
for the
coffees.
food and the coffee, huh?
Yeah, coffee in the morning and a cornetto. You can do the James Richardson.
Yeah, get a Gazzetta.
Yeah, don't live it vicariously. Come on, come with us.
I'll say as well that just while before I finish on that, the most beautiful place I've been to was Lake Como. Me and my girls went there, and oh my goodness, breathtaking.
And did you see the Stadio Giuseppe Sinigalia while you were
I
there?
didn't actually know because we were only that we went on the train from Milan. So our based us in Milan, and we by the train station, and we went on different day trips because that's the great thing about Northern Italy. You can go to so many different places on the train so easily, and it's like an hour to all of them. So we went to Verona, and which was a lovely place to visit as well. And but Lake Como, just the sights.
You can't go wrong with any of the towns we've been to. I mean, we've barely been to a town that we didn't like.
Yeah.
And not being biased here, but Verona, Como, you breathe it in, lap it up in that northern part of Italy as well.
It's sorry to interject. It's funny that Adam says that, like in Rome, it was driven from the airport, and he's like, I want to go there, I want to go there, I want to go there. Because legend has that that's why Sven-Göran Eriksson signed for Roma, because he went on a scouting mission in Rome, and he was driven from the airport to his hotel, and he saw so many things that he was falling in love with, and then he ended up signing for Roma. So,
amazing.
you know, I'm sure, Adam, you're not the first, apparently.
Yeah, well, first it was a Swede, then it was an Englishman. So,
If it's good enough for Sven, it's good enough for
Well, exactly.
yeah, well, the great Sven, written an article on that as well. Go check it out on destinationculture.com. Let's move on to a little bit of Champions League football. We know that you covered Juventus and PSV. Nice little thunderous volley into the top of the net from Weston McKennie. What are Juventus's chances, realistically, in your eyes, moving forward?
Well, I think first and foremost, Juve's priority for me should be their bread and butter, which is Serie A, and becoming again a side that truly challenges for the title, which I don't think they're going to be doing this season. It's undeniably a team in a transitional period, and I know people sometimes use that phrase as an excuse, but I do believe it's genuinely true with Juve. It's a team that's looking to build for the future with a young coach, a coach with very different ideas and a different way of playing to his predecessor. They've put a lot of faith in youth. So there are reasons why Juve aren't yet challenging for the title, but I think that it's a case of don't try and run before you can walk. And I think anything that they get in the Champions League is a bonus for me right now. That I think they have to be trying to make sure that they're challenging. And of course, there is a circle here because in order to compete in Serie A, they need the money from the Champions League. So I understand that it's important that they're fighting on both fronts. But I think in terms of the Champions League this season, I felt that it was a fairly tight contest against PSV. I felt it when the tie was drawn that it would be quite close, and so it proved last night. They've edged it in the first leg. I think PSV score a lot of goals at home, so there's a long way to go in this tie. And I think it will be tight to see who goes through. I don't see them winning it. I just don't think they're anywhere near ready to win it yet. But if they can get progress in it, that will all help in the complete picture in terms of getting Juve back to where they need to be and should be.
We want to thank you for joining us on Destination Culture, the Calcio FC pod. Adam Summerton, the man of Italian Calcio, the voice on TNT Sports in the United Kingdom. Guys?
Yeah, Adam, thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure. I think
no problem.
For me, you've become the voice of Italian football in the UK in the modern era. So, yeah, it's a
That's kind of you. Thank you.
pleasure to have you on, and hopefully we'll get you on again soon.
In regards to Don as well.
Yeah, Don as well, and Tony.
Yeah, Tony?
Yeah, they're great. I mean, all the guys that do it with Nigel as well. We've got a little team and that do it now, and we really enjoy it. And I think we all know the league and love the league. And I think hopefully that sort of comes across. I mean, me and Don will be texting each other during a week about if we've got a particularly big game coming up, like the one on Sunday. It's a bit of fun on a Sunday. I saw somebody writing an article about it the other day, and they said that they started watching it on a Sunday night, and they said it was the way they sort of reviewed it was they said this was like being let in on a secret, which I thought I sort of took as a real compliment. That it was not a compliment to the league as much as our coverage. The fact that hang on a minute, this is actually really good. This league's brilliant. We should be watching this all the time. So hopefully more people discover that secret.
I was actually saying this to a mate last week, and I think he pointed out that watching it, you guys doing it, it's as close as it gets to Football Italia these days. There's like the genuine enthusiasm and the love for the league, the love for not just what you're seeing over 90 minutes on the pitch, but all the stories, as you said, behind it.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant. And it's been an absolute blast having you on.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me on, and good luck with the pod.
Thank you. And we're going to nickname your little cult following and your little cult there, the 4-man cult, Team Culture. There you go. That's from us.
Good stuff.
At Destination Culture. Thanks, Adam Summerton, for joining.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Emmett Gates for joining and Dan Kantsian, our Destination Culture senior writers. You can contact us on social media platforms as well, especially X. That's where we recommend you to go if you want to visit the Destination Culture profile itself. It's at DSTN Culture. I'm at David Freeney _.
I'm at Emmett Gates.
And I'm at Dan_Kansian.
You are indeed, Dan. And we'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.